my first question is, you are already somehow in the pinnacle of the judicial hierarchy, being in the Supreme Court. Why would you want to be an ombudsman?
Well, some of my friends or even my family have been asking me that question. You know, before I applied for the position of Court of Appeals Associate Justice, it was then my initial intention to apply as Deputy Ombudsman. I was still a regional trial court judge of Quezon City. But as they say, life has its own plans. So here I am, now as a member of the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court, as an Associate Justice. However, the opportunity is knocking once again at the door. So my dream then of being an activist watchman or a watchdog is again open, because I would like also to, of course, I have seen something that I believe I can do if I be appointed as an ombudsman. Like we say, the problem of inordinate delays in the investigation and the prosecution of graft and corruption or misdeeds involving public officials or employees. And I want also to at least to help how to regain public trust in the ombudsman.
What is your comment about the actions of the previous ombudsman of filing administrative cases against some members of the judiciary for issuing cease and desist orders on certain dismissal and suspensions of certain government officials?
The preventive, referring to preventive suspension, Your Honor. Okay, that was done by the former ombudsman. Okay, actually, there is even a pending case right now, okay, wherein the former ombudsman filed a case against the some of the associate justices of the Court of Appeals for issuing TROs or enjoining the implementation of the suspension order made by the former ombudsman, and he even filed an administrative case against them. Although this is sub judice, so I will no longer tackle about the propriety of that case. Well, for me, I think it is within the power of the ombudsman to administer or to preventively suspend those government officials, even though how high their position is, but not, of course, those whom the ombudsman does not have an authority to do so. It does not have any jurisdiction, like let us say the members of Congress. He cannot just administratively act on some issues or some administrative complaints, because that is not within the ambit of the authority of the ombudsman, or neither those officers which can only be removed by way of impeachment, or it does not even have the authority to act on administrative cases as to the members of the judiciary. But I subscribe that he has the power, of course, to preventively suspend a government official for under pending investigation or fact-finding investigation, Your Honor.
If you have an opportunity to talk to the president, what will you tell him to convince him to consider you as the next ombudsman?
Well, maybe I will tell to the president that I've been in the judiciary for more than 3 decades. I started my career as a municipal trial court judge in Bangar, La Union, and until I reached the pinnacle of my judicial career, which is as Justice of the Supreme Court. I am a true blue Ilocano. And when it comes to loyalty, for sure, I can be as loyal as the Ilocanos. But of course, without telling this to the president, but of course, my loyalty is to the people, not to the person or to the to the person who will be appointing me. But I will convince him that I have my integrity, my impartiality, which is ingrained into my bones, being tested with fire, as we may say, because of my long years in the judiciary. And of course, I can also say to him that if he will appoint me, he can again appoint somebody to take my place instead.
Well said. That was my final question, and thank you and good luck, Justice Gairlan.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Mejia. Our next interviewer is the Honorable Justice Erlinda Piñera Uy, regular member representing the Integrated Bar of the Philippines.
Thank you, Attorney Cuevas. Good afternoon, Justice Gairlan.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
If I may ask a follow-up question to the first question of Justice Attorney Mejia, it's regarding cases filed by the previous ombudsman against appellate court justices of the Court of Appeals, wherein they issued TROs for suspension orders of the ombudsman. May I just know what will be your policy? Will you just allow the procedural process to take its course instead of filing administrative cases against the Court of Appeals justices?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe in judicial processes. I believe in the rule of law, and I should not be onion skin. I will not take it personally. Anyway, there are some judicial remedies that are available. So we have been in the, you yourself, Your Honor, have been in the judiciary, and we know that if it is within the bounds of our duties, then we have to act on it. So if I'll be the ombudsman, I will not take it against those who have a different opinion as to my decision. So I welcome that, Your Honor.
In what ways can your judicial insights contribute to refining the ombudsman's investigative procedures and legal strategies?
You mean what will I do as my...
To refine the current strategies, investigative procedures and legal strategies.
Yeah. There are so many cases which we have decided in the Supreme Court, Your Honor, about inordinate delays. There are so many cases, and most of those cases have been dismissed, invoking inordinate delay. Although there is one decision wherein the court said that the period in the preliminary and the fact-finding investigation is not included in the counting of the of the time or the inordinate delay. So my idea is to strengthen the investigate or the fact-finding investigation, as well as the fact-finding investigation or the prosecution, in the sense that I have to prioritize cases that are already long overdue, and what I'll do is to at least to create a unit or a team to specifically address that problem. And one thing more, I envision to have a continuous training or training for investigators, so that they must be well equipped on how evidence gathering should be done. That is what is that I believe is what is important. You have to gather evidences in order to win a case. You cannot just file a case in court without the even a slightest chance of winning, because you have also to protect the rights of those who are being accused. You cannot just file cases. I was thinking yesterday of adopting. There is right now a sort of a policy in the Department of Justice about a reasonable degree of evidence, wherein you have to at least a concrete evidence in order for you to support your cases in court. So to cut it short, I will strengthen, Your Honor, the investigatory unit of the Ombudsman.
Looking at the strategic plan of the Ombudsman that you submitted, I noticed in one of your programs for year 1 is to relaunch the Ombudsman hotline, Ipaalam kay Ombudsam, to encourage public reporting and monitoring. Coincidentally, you have the same name as the former Ombudsman. So you will adopt the same name?
Yes, that's what they were even teasing me before that from Sam to Sam. I use the Ipaalam kay Ombudsam because my hashtag for I will be the next bar chair for 2020 for the year 2026, and my hashtag,
unless appointed.
Yes, my hashtag is awesome bar. Okay. Now, you stated earlier, Your Honor, unless appointed. Well, the NBank is already prepared any contingencies, in the sense that until 2027, the NBank had already appointed or designated the bar chair. So even right now, we are already shadowing with Justice Amy Javier, who is the bar chair for this year. So that the bar chair for 2027, who happened to be Justice Ricky Rosario, had already his own team, who is likewise coordinating with my team. So we have contingencies on that matter, Your Honor.
If appointed.
Yes.
May I know also, considering that you are now 66 years old, so you still have 4 years with the Supreme Court, what happens if you get appointed as Ombudsman? Will you optionally retire from the Supreme Court?
Yes, Your Honor. That is my plan, to optionally retire and enjoy the fruits of my hard-earned labor for being in the judiciary for more than for 3 decades, and again, to still be an active in the public service.
So, how did you find moral courage in public office? And can you cite an instance in your career when you had to make an unpopular but principled decision?
Moral courage for me, Your Honor, is the strength to do what is right, although it is unpopular or risky. In my 3 decades of being a magistrate, starting as a municipal trial court judge, up to my present position right now, I always apply the rule of law or the law without fear or favor.
Any experiential encounter on this matter?
Yes, Your Honor. When I was still an RTC judge, I have already encountered some cases involving high-profile cases, most especially now that I am in the Supreme Court. There were so many cases involving political cases, and I always maintain my integrity, my independence in such a way that I decide cases not based on emotions, but based on reason.
That was my last question. Justice Garland, good luck to you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Justice Uy. Our next interviewer is the Honorable Congresswoman Jerville Luistro, ex-officio member representing the Legislative Department.
Good afternoon, Justice Garland.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
I wish to comment first your statement about your dream to becoming a watchdog of the erring public officials, and in line with that, your intention to launch Isumbong Mo Kay Sam. I think it brings the Ombudsman closer to the heart of the people.
Yes, Your Honor.
Hearing this program, Isumbong Mo Kay Sam. However, Justice, my attention was caught by one of your statements. You said a while ago, to regain the public trust in the Ombudsman. May I be enlightened? What do you think is the impression of the public today with regards to the Ombudsman? And what are your intentions or measures to introduce to be able to regain the same?
Okay. Your Honor, we know that public office is a public trust. We've been, today, people, even millennials, are very much aware of what's happening in our political system, so that they are very conscious about what's happening right now. Even what's they can they can easily access through social media or the social media platforms. And I am also reading, Your Honor, although I am very busy in my work as a Justice of the Supreme Court, but I am also aware of what's happening, and I've seen that right now I'm not taking against the former ombudsman. This is just a general perception, Your Honor, that the people are something that they have now they question the integrity, not only of the office of the ombudsman, but the government as a whole, the institution as a whole. there is a problem with the integrity of the legislature where you belong, Your Honor, and even us in the judiciary, we are not, I would say, thick-skinned about the sentiments of the people, and that will be my marching orders in if ever I'll be appointed as ombudsman, to see to it that the trust of the people will again be regained, because public trust or public trust is the moral authority of the ombudsman. Once that trust is lost, it can never be recovered. That's the reason why I instill in my mind the core values of honesty and integrity in the performance of my duties.
For my next question, Justice, as a lawyer who was once in the litigation, it has been my appreciation that the highest honor indeed attaches to becoming a justice of the Supreme Court. I wish to ask, speaking about honor, if you are given the chance to choose between becoming the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court or becoming the next Ombudsman, which will you choose, Justice?
Well, it's all our dreams. First of all, when we were still a new lawyers, we are all lawyers here. It's all our dreams, just to be in the highest court of the land. In fact, when I was still a student of San Beda College of Law, I idolize my professors who are judges. And by being a judge alone, that was already my ambition. But as I have said earlier, life has its own plans, and I reached even up to the highest court of the land. Now, as to your question, Your Honor, well, of course, I would like also to be the Chief Justice. I want to always to be the leader. It is my when I was still a kid, I've been a leader even in our fraternities, in our organizations. I've been the leader, Your Honor. I was once a Kabataang Barangay chairman, and I want to lead. So that's the reason why I also want to be an ombudsman, because I'll be the leader in that office. And being an ombudsman, you can be an active one, unlike in the Supreme Court, that you are passive in the sense that you only wait for cases to be filed. You can only act on cases to be filed. Unlike if you're an ombudsman, at your own initiative, you can investigate cases of wrongdoings by public officials, Your Honor.
Thank you, Justice. For my third question, one of the powers of the Congress is to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation. And under the rules of the Ombudsman, the committee report can be considered a complaint. However, there has been a change with respect to their rules on how they will appreciate the committee report. In the 2022 rules, the same should be subjected to a fact-finding investigation first for a period of 60 days before they are docketed and considered as adversarial proceedings. But under the 2025 rules, once received, the same should be docketed and preliminary investigation shall proceed right away. Should you be appointed as the next ombudsman, which rule will you adopt?
Well, I think I have to adapt the 2025 rules, Your Honor, because the Congress has the power also to investigate in aid of legislation and even recommend if cases had to be filed before the ombudsman or before any court for that matter, so that they have to complement each other. They have to complement each other. So if the evidences presented or filed by Congress, I've been also watching sometimes the committee hearings of the House of Representatives, Your Honor, where you belong. I've been watching you in the Quadcom, and so it appears to me that your investigation is likewise extensive. There were so many evidences that were gathered, so I have to consider that.
Thank you. For my next question, Justice, in 2022, a law was enacted creating the Office of the Judiciary Marshal. Of course, this is to safeguard, protect members, officials, and personnel of the judiciary. Is it your position, should you be appointed, to adopt the same legislative measure with respect to the employees and officials of the Ombudsman?
First of all, Your Honor, I have to express my deepest gratitude for approving that judiciary Office of the Judiciary Marshals Act, which I am the co-chairman, Your Honor, of that committee. I don't know if it can be done in ombudsman, because it needs a law, unless of course the Congress will give us that or will enact a law for the creation of an ombudsman marshal. Okay. However, Your Honor, even without the said office or the ombudsman marshals, I have to look into the safety also of not only the ombudsman, myself, if I'll be appointed, and the other officers, and even up to the investigators, especially the investigators. I have to see to it that they are well secured, although I haven't have any idea whether there were already threats or there were already death as a result of the investigations being conducted by the investigators of the ombudsman. Unlike in the judiciary, where there were so many judges that were already that died because of their duties. That's the primary reason why the judiciary martial law was, I think, passed. So, if ever there is a law to that effect, then I will welcome it. Otherwise, I will see to it that the officers and the employees of the ombudsman, being a watchdog of the people, to also be properly protected.
In terms of the amount of risk, Justice, that is attached to the judiciary vis-a-vis the risk that is attached to the office of the ombudsman,
Yes, Your Honor.
which office do you think has more risk with respect to the officials and employees?
It will be as to the investigators, especially the fact-finding teams because they have to go out to gather evidences, especially when the people being investigated are powerful, are those powerful or in power. So they are at the risk, Your Honor. And for sure, even the ombudsman is also at the risk.
So if the Congress will give you the prerogative to make the necessary proposal with respect to the proper response to the risk which is being faced by the people in the ombudsman, would you take the position of requesting for the same ombudsman marshal,
Yeah,
similar to the context of judiciary marshal?
Yes, Your Honor. I will gladly accept that, Your Honor.
Thank you. For my next question, Justice, the President has recently signed the Judicial Fiscal Autonomy Act. Again, if you will be given the chance to be the next ombudsman, will you propose the same measure for the office of the ombudsman? And how do you appreciate this in light of the principle of checks and balances among the three branches of the government?
Again, I have to express our deepest gratitude, Your Honor, for helping us with that bill, expanded fiscal autonomy of the judiciary, and I am one of the I should say liaisons of the Supreme Court in lobbying for that for the passage of that bill. So, well, I also, if given a chance, I will also lobby for a fiscal autonomy of the ombudsman, Your Honor, because, well, it is the mandate of the ombudsman. The ombudsman was created, of course, to be autonomous and free from any influences. So how can you exercise your autonomy if you don't have also a fiscal autonomy? And you will be, especially when you are dealing with, you will be dealing with high government officials, to Congress, and they have the power, the force. At least if you can perform your duties with the necessary autonomy, because you have all the budgets, then I think that would be good for the ombudsman, Your Honor.
Thank you, Justice, and it is a great honor to be one of your interviewers.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Congresswoman Luistro. Our next interviewer is the Honorable Attorney Nesauro H. Firme, regular member representing the Academe.
Yes, good afternoon, Justice.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
How are you?
I'm good, Your Honor. How about you?
I'm good also. Better. Yes. From some to some. That's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. I'm asking the same set of questions to all applicants. So first question, Justice, if appointed as the ombudsman, what can the stakeholders expect from you?
Okay. The public the public, what do they expect from me? An ombudsman who is firm but compassionate, Your Honor.
Because if it's firme, it's me.
Yes, Your Honor.
Minus E. Okay. So, actually, I rephrased the question. So, you have been an MTC judge, RTC judge, a litigation lawyer. So, despite all these accomplishments in life, in your career, Why do you still want to become an ombudsman?
As I have said earlier, Your Honor, well, it has been my dream because I'm an active person. I am an activist in the sense that I always do something or some changes that will have a change, especially in our society as a whole. So that motivates me of again applying to this position.
So, Justice, I understand as an MTC judge, RTC judge, Court of Appeals, and even Supreme Court, you were appointed by the President.
Yes, Your
So
Honor.
the question is, how apolitical are you, having been appointed by several presidents?
As I've said earlier, Your Honor, when somebody asked me, I think it was the Honorable Erlinda P. Uy, who asked me if I'll be talking to the President and giving my credentials why he must appoint me. Well, Your Honor, I've been appointed by President Fidel Ramos when I was in MTC judge, then 3 times by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo as an RTC judge in La Union, Quezon City, then as an Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals, then by President Duterte in 2020 as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. What I can say, Your Honor, is that I am very grateful for those who appointed me. Well, of course, that is our traits as Filipinos, being grateful for those who have given us blessings. But as I have said, my loyalty is with the people and the law, not on personalities.
Okay. So, Justice, independence, as we all know, is one of the qualities of a good ombudsman.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, in discharging your past or present duty, can you tell us an instance wherein you displayed your independence?
Well, Your Honor, I have been doing that way back when I was still a judge, most especially now that I am in the Supreme Court. In our deliberations, I've been standing on my ground, and I have decided or concurred on some decided cases based on my integrity, my independence, without fear or favor, Your Honor. I have, we can say that just recently I have decided cases that even involve how would I say it, high personalities in government, and also I have decided cases involving lawyers, which are even against them, which are even my good friends.
Okay. Speaking of integrity, Justice, can you tell us an instance where your integrity was somehow put to test, and how did you navigate through that?
Yes, there were instances where my integrity was tested, especially when cases involving close I have close relationship with them. So what I did is to disclose it to the parties. I've been doing that even when I was still a judge in Quezon City. I immediately disclose in open court. I immediately disclose my relationship to the lawyer, being my former classmate. Then I asked the opposing counsel if he had any question about it or if he intends to ask for my recusal. So I'm being transparent, Your Honor. Although it is not one of the grounds of a mandatory inhibition, but I made it a point to tell it to the parties, and if they believe that it might affect my impartiality, then I will gladly inhibit myself.
So, how much how much value do you give to public perception?
Well, I value it very much, Your Honor, because that is the mandate of the ombudsman. Without public trust, how can you act effectively? That's the reason why, Your Honor, if ever I'll be appointed as an ombudsman, I will bring with me the values I have earned in my more than 3 decades as a justice, that is honesty and integrity.
So I understand as a member of the highest court of the land, you get criticisms.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sabihin,
Most
you
of the
do
time.
you do something good most of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
You do something good and still get criticisms. So how do you
Damn
take?
you do it, damn you don't. Your Honor.
Yes. So how do you take public criticisms?
Well, as I've been teaching legal ethics before, Your Honor, that even a lawyer, you must not be onion skin at the same time thick skin. So if you have an attitude that way, then you cannot be an effective dispenser of justice, Your Honor.
So let us assume justice is already 2029. So you have been appointed as the ombudsman to this post. No? So as we all know, 2029 we have a new president, diba?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So I have 5 things in mind, and I want you to rank them. Number 1 being the most significant as far as you are concerned. Number 5 would be the least significant. No? So number 1 would be the president that appointed you to this post. Number 2, the president, the incumbent president. So it's 2029, the next president. Number 3, the public, including public perception. Number 4, the safety of your family. And number 5, your personal goal that you have mentioned earlier. So in other words, there is an ethical dilemma, no, on your part. So you want to choose, sino ba yung unahin ko dito?
So I will rank these 5 things, Your Honor. The president who appointed me, the incumbent president, public perception, safety of my family, and personal ambition
Mission or goals, yeah.
Yes, okay. First, Your Honor, I will rank it in such a way that my number 1 will be safety of my family, because they are my foundation, Your Honor. My family is my foundation. Number 2 will be my personal goals, because they are my roadmaps or my compass, you know, to be an effective ombudsman. Then 3 will be public perception, because trust in the ombudsman is my moral authority. Then Number 4 will be the current president. There must be a necessity of coordination in order to be effective in being an ombudsman. Okay. I'm referring to the executive branch, or even to Congress, Your Honor. Then the last one will be the appointing president. As I've said earlier, I will always be grateful to the one who appointed me, but my loyalty is to the law and the people, not to personalities.
So safety of your family will be the first. So are you ready to have bodyguards? Because I understand ombudsman has a lot of bodyguards.
I don't have any idea, Your Honor. But right now, I don't have bodyguards, Your Honor. I only have one driver, and sometimes I even drive myself.
So do you think there would be a significant change in your life if ever you will be appointed as the next ombudsman?
I believe so, Your Honor. There will be drastic changes. There will be drastic changes in my life, because I will be traversing again a treacherous office, or say so. I will have to prepare myself physically, mentally, and emotionally, so that I can withstand the rigors of that position, Your Honor.
So less golf.
Well, I will still continue what I am doing right now, Your Honor. Otherwise, because I will be needing that, Your Honor, to be physically fit.
So assuming justice, the evidence warrants. So, and we understand that there could be several public officials who would help you right now, to get this ombudsman post. Now you are appointed, and it happens that these public officials who helped you, very instrumental, nagkaroon ng kaso with the ombudsman. Would you file a case? Would you have the guts, the courage, the nerve to file a case against them?
Well,
Don't get distracted by the servings.
well, it is really a common practice that you cannot just be appointed without, of course, the help of somebody else. Even in being a law clerk, you must have padrinos, or ninongs, or ninas. I am not saying that this is a bad practice. This is because it's still the prerogative of the president to appoint, especially these highest officers. Now, you were asking me that if ever my benefactor, or the one who helped me, will be indicted of any misdeeds in the public service, then that will not prevent me, Your Honor. I will silently gather evidences, but I have to be confidential in doing so. I also have to protect the right of that person of due process.
Last question, Justice. So if ever appointed, what significant development in your life, you think would make you decide to quit the ombudsman post? Meaning to say you would not finish the 7-year period.
I will immediately quit, Your Honor, my position as ombudsman if I believe I can no longer work with, if I've lost my integrity and impartiality. Because if I will, once I lost those values, then I can no longer be an effective ombudsman. So the most honorable thing to do is to step down.
Thank you, Justice, and good luck.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Unfortunately, you will not be served with pansit.
It's okay, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Firme. Our last interviewer is the Honorable Justice Jose Catral Mendoza, regular member representing the retired justices of the Supreme Court.
Okay. Thank you very much, Attorney Mar. Good afternoon, Justice.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
I've heard your answers to the questions of my colleagues, and a few questions, only one siguro, questions of my own. There are 15 justices in the Supreme Court, one Chief Justice. In your references, you named Justice Rodil Salameda. So, why not the other justices?
Because, Your Honor, well, they are all my good friends. But as they say, Justice Rodil Salameda is my BFF because we've been together way back when we were in the Court of Appeals. We were together in Cebu when the first time that we were appointed as Chief Justice of the Court of Appeals, and he knows me personally. About my life, about my family, about my work ethics, and we also played golf together, Your Honor. So that's the reason why I place in my application Justice Rodil Salameda as my reference, Your Honor, and together with my judicial staff head, who I brought with me from the Court of Appeals.
Thank you very much, Justice. That was my last question.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your
Thank you.
excuse.
Thank you, Your Honor.